Every blog post that you write for your local business is actively hurting your ranking. Most SEO advice tells you that content is king. But after analyzing hundreds of local business websites, I found the opposite is often true for local SEO. Now, I've been doing SEO since 2016, and I scaled my agency to 7 figures in 3 years by ignoring conventional wisdom like weekly blog posts. So in this video, I'm going to explain why blogging hurts local rankings. I'm going to give you the exact structure that Google looks for instead, and how to build that structure using AI. So let's talk a little bit about weekly blog posts. This has been around for 10 years in the realm of local SEO. Agencies telling business owners you have to write a blog post, you have to write weekly blog posts, etc., etc. I'm telling you, this is wrong. This is a myth invented by SEO agencies so that they can keep charging fees to local business owners when they're not actually generating any rank position. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look on this channel, on my YouTube channel, and you can find comments written by SEO agencies asking me, if we're not doing weekly blogs, how can we keep charging the clients? That's the reason they're doing weekly blogs, not to try to get the business ranking higher, but because they want to keep charging money to the business owner. So the problem is, if we look at Google's algorithm and how it works, there are really 3 factors driving a local business ranking on Google Maps. The first factor is proximity. That is, how close is the searcher to the Google business profile address? Now, sadly, from an SEO agency perspective, we can't do anything to help proximity, unless maybe we got an unmarked white van and drove around gathering up people who might be interested in plumbers and drove them over to the GBP address. Not a viable long-term strategy. So let's talk about the other 2. The second one is trust. That is, how much can Google's algorithm trust that this local business will serve its users well? Google is just math. It's just an algorithm. So to determine trust, what Google looks for is links. So when we say trust, we really mean links. The more trusted the website that sends the links, the more impactful, the more trust you generate. So we really want to build trust by building local, high authority links to business owners' website. Now, the third one is the one we're here to talk about today. That's called relevance. Now, relevance is just a fancy word that means content. What we want to do to establish relevance is build up content that talks about the local geography and the local services that local business provides. Essentially, they're targeting the organic algorithm that lives below the Google business profile. This is absolutely ridiculous. Why would we ever target below the map pack if we're a local business? When you do a local search, you see a map, you see ABC. That map gets 60, 70, sometimes 80% of the traffic, of the clicks, of the calls for that search. Ads get another 5%. That leaves peanuts behind for organic SEO. I had a local business come to me. They were getting 80,000 hits a month from Google search. This is a ridiculous number of visits from Google search for a local business. They had an SEO company, and that SEO company, I'll give them credit. They made the traffic graph go up and to the right. That's what we all want to see. Wrong. This business came to me because they weren't getting any calls. They were ranking organically, getting calls for people who were searching for how to fix a water heater or something like that, not for people who needed a water heater replacement local to that business. So the way we fixed this is we deleted a massive number of blog posts. We combined the ones that were actually good, and we rewrote a lot of them so that we were targeting local keywords. Google's Search Console traffic actually dropped significantly. It dropped down to 40,000 a month, half what they were getting, but their local rank map got a lot better. Okay, so let me talk in more detail about the type of content that you need if your goal is to rank a Google business profile to grow the proximity where that Google business profile will rank in the top 3. And honestly, for local SEO, that's all we're trying to do. So we're using content to build relevance, both topical relevance and geographical relevance. The best way to do this is to make sure Google knows that this website is exactly aligned with the Google business profile. I call this method the Core 30. And as far as I know, I coined this phrase and this method. This is largely based on a lot of work we used to do for non-local, where we would build up a individual URL that we would try to rank with a lot of supporting content. We can think of it the same way, except here, the URL we're trying to rank is the Google business profile. Now, the Google business profile profile, if you go to that GBP, there's a white box for website. Whatever URL you put in that white box is your GBP landing page. That's what we call it. For most businesses, that GBP landing page is the homepage. Not all, but for most. What we're trying to do is to provide as much topical relevance as we possibly can to the GBP landing page. The more relevance the landing page has, the more relevance the GBP has. So the crux of the Core 30 is that we want to build a single page, a single article for every single category and every single service that's on the GBP. And we're going to build an article for each one of those. That's why we call it the Core 30. Most local businesses should have 3 or 4 categories on their GBP, 1 primary category and 2 or 3 secondary categories, and 20 to 30 services. That gives 30 pages, 30 articles, 30 URLs, whatever terminology you want to use. So that's why I've called this the Core 30. So the way that we're structuring this is we start with the primary category and the city. Okay, this is almost funny. Across the hundreds of local business websites that I've looked at, the most common, I'm not exaggerating, the most common homepage title tag is the word home, because that is default title tag for a lot of website builders out there. The words on the GBP landing page title tag are the most important words on your entire website. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So the title tag needs to include the primary category that you're trying to rank for, and it must include the city name. The brand should be after the primary category and city name. Now, don't make your title tag Plumber Chicago or something like that. You want to include the primary category and city name in the title tag, but also add more words to make it more interesting. Beyond the title tag, we also pay a lot of attention to the H1. 99% of the time, a single URL will have one H1 tag. H1 just basically means the headline, the primary headline. There are cases where we might go for more than one H1, but that's for very specialized advanced techniques. I'm not going to get into that here. Try to focus on just one H1. The H1 will also include the primary category and the city name. It does not need to be the exact same as the title tag, but it does need to also include the target primary category and city name. And just below the H1, we have the first paragraph. The goal in the first paragraph is to establish goal completion. Okay, Google loves ranking businesses and Google business profiles based on user data, based on how people engage with the website or the Google business profile. We call this goal completion. The better and faster your website can achieve the user's goal, the higher and longer you're going to rank. This is why for local SEO, we often don't spend a lot of time with competitor research, because we can look at a specific city, I've seen this many times, and have one GBP that has no website attached and the other 2 have websites with hundreds of indexed URLs. And the question is, how is this GBP with no website possibly ranking in the top 3? If we look at the 4th, 5th, 6th players, they also have hundreds of indexed URLs. You can drive yourself insane with competitive research. The reason we don't do competitive research is that when we're doing competitive research, we can't see the key part of the data that drives Google to put the Google business profiles on top. That is how effectively those Google business profiles provide goal completion. We don't have access to that data. So when we're doing competitive research, it's always going to be wrong. It's always going to be fundamentally flawed because we don't have access to the most important data, which is how is this GBP serving their customers? If someone calls a Google business profile number and the business owner answers and is helpful and takes care of everything that caller needs, the caller doesn't call any of the other Google business profiles, that is a huge sign of excellence for Google's algorithm. Goal met. If instead someone calls a GBP and the business owner doesn't answer, so then they call the next GBP, that's a massive negative sign that the goal wasn't met, they had to call someone else. That's very annoying for users. I'm sure you've had that experience when looking up local businesses, and when that happens, the local business that didn't answer gets a strike against them. If they keep that up, their ranking will fall. You might be wondering, well, hey Caleb, how do you know that Google knows if businesses are actually answering the phone? Well, let me tell you, Google did not release Android free of charge out of the goodness of their heart. Android and Chrome are both developed so that Google can feed more data to its algorithm to see how users are interacting with different parts of the internet, giving Google data that any other search engine just doesn't have. And the Android is half of the US smartphone market, so Google definitely knows if you're answering your phone or not. Please answer the phone. It will help. All right, let's get back to how we're going to structure our content. So we talked about the homepage title tag, the homepage H1, and then the first paragraph. What you want to do in the first paragraph is provide goal completion. You want to get the user who landed on the page, you want to convert them as reasonably quickly as possible. You have maybe 30 to 45 seconds before they bounce for a local business website. So that's what we're going to do in the first paragraph. We'll re-mention the primary category and city name, but here is where you're going to put the best information, the best reasons why someone should actually tap to call you right in that first paragraph. Below that first paragraph, we're going to have a bunch of subheadings. We're going to call them H2s. These subheadings are going to mirror the GBP. Each subheading will focus on a secondary category that's on the GBP, and if there are a couple, only 2 or 3, very, very important services. For a plumber, something like water heater replacement or main drain line replacement, very lucrative services. We'll also maybe put those services on the homepage as well. Now, those H2s, the subheading, are going to mention the category name or service name and the city. Then there's going to be a short paragraph of text, 50 to 100 words, and then we'll have a link to the URL focused on that category, right? If the URL will have 1,000, 2,000 words, something like that, all about that category. And that category page is going to be built almost the same as our GBP landing page, except we're going to put the category city name in the title tag, category city name in the H1 tag, first paragraph focused on driving that conversion, and all of the H2, the subheading tags, are going to be the services that live under that category on your GBP. When you organize your 20 or 30 services, you're going to put services under the category that they're most relevant towards. So whatever services are under the secondary category, those services are going to be listed on that category page, little blocks of text, 50 to 100 words talking about that service, and you guessed it, a link in that block of text to a page that goes into more detail about that service page. The structure of the service page is going to sound very familiar. I'm sounding like a broken record here. The title tag is going to be service city name. H1 is going to be service city name. First paragraph is going to talk about the reason that somebody who lands on that service page should call this local business. You're building a service page about this service. You're not writing a blog post. All the subheadings on the service should answer questions that your users have about that service. You can use the people also ask questions on Google. You can look on Reddit. You can look on other local forums. I'll show a prompt on screen right now that will get AI, ChatGPT, to go out and find these types of questions on Reddit and other relevant local business forums to put on your service page. We could just use the people also ask, but in recent years, the people also ask questions have largely been overused, in my opinion, and they're just not as effective as they used to be. We know that ChatGPT loves Reddit, so by mimicking the types of questions that users are asking on Reddit, we're going to establish a lot of authority, both with Google's algorithm and with ChatGPT. So when you're done with this, you're going to have 30 pages in the exact same structure as the Google Business Profile. This builds a massive amount of topical relevance for your primary category, secondary categories, and all of your services. It also builds a massive amount of geographic relevance because every single one of these pages is talking about the city that your GBP is in. This is how we have done local SEO for years. Something dramatic happened in November of 2022 that made this much easier. Those of you who remember back 3 years ago will know that in November of 2022, ChatGPT 3.5 came out. Now we're at ChatGPT 5. Claude 4.5 just came out. For my agency, we did a lot of objective testing and a lot of subjective testing, and we have found that Claude typically outperforms ChatGPT 5 for writing content. So the way that we write this content is we use AI to write the content, and then we use human editors to fine-tune it, make it better, to remove some of the AI-ness. So let me show you the single prompt that we use to create locally relevant content in just a couple of minutes. I have a handful of, we call them AI copywriters on staff with a copywriter manager who manages the team. And the way our workflow works is we have Claude generate an outline based on some relevant questions. People also ask questions or Reddit questions. Then we take that outline and we feed it to a different Claude project. The basis for the actual content writing is the prompt that I just showed you, but we're going to add more information about the specific client. So we'll have the client GBP information. We'll have some about us information from the client, from their about us page, and then anything specific about that client that we do or don't want mentioned in the content, we'll also put that in the prompt. That way, as the client gives us feedback, we can put that feedback in the Claude project for that client and get content that better and better matches what the client's looking for. We also make sure to insert internal links. The internal links is how Google understands the structure of your website. I get so many people asking me, what's the best URL structure? How should I structure the URLs, etc., etc., etc. The short version of this answer is it does not matter how you structure your URLs. Google doesn't really care about your URLs. I don't care about your URLs. I want you to use your target keyword in the URLs. Beyond that, I don't care how many folders or subfolders you have. Best is usually flat, but if you want to put them in folders, knock yourselves out. You have to understand that Google builds the image of how your website is structured with your internal links, not with your URLs. The landing page links to the category page. The category pages link to the service page. Service pages link to each other. So in this way, we create this hierarchical structure with internal links. So make sure you're putting those internal links in. Then we're going to run the Claude. We run the content through GPT. Now I know that AI plagiarism checking tools are largely trash. They really don't work. In my experience, what we found is that content that scores 95% on the AI written tests, usually that's just very low quality content that people don't read. So we're going to want to make sure that that content is at least 60% or lower, ideally 50% or lower. The quickest trick is if the score is too high, ask Claude to rewrite it at a 5th grade reading level. That will usually drop it down in one additional prompt. So let me touch on technical validation. Even when you have built this perfect content, you need these technical trust signals. Now, one trust signal is links. So let me show you the prompt that we use that will get ChatGPT or Claude, whatever tool you prefer, to crawl the internet and find local high authority websites willing to link to your business, whether that be charitable organizations or local events. I ran this once for a client of ours near Austin, and it literally found that the University of Texas in Austin was looking for sponsors for a local TEDx event. $250 was the minimum sponsorship fee, and it came with a link to the sponsor from the UT Austin's website. Could you imagine for $250 a link from a .edu local college in Austin? Such a powerful signal for trust. Most SEOs would pay thousands for it. We sponsored the TEDx event, paid $250, plus my client got to attend the TEDx event and meet a lot of other local business owners in that area. Let me show you that prompt. So beyond just those links, let me hit on 4 quick technical things that won't take you very long that you need to do correctly. First, I'm going to talk about schema markup. This is structured data. Schema markup is the only time that you can speak directly to Google's algorithm or directly to ChatGPT. The way that I like to think of schema markup is it's like putting labels on moving boxes. When you're moving, all of your worldly possessions go into boxes, and schema is the label on those boxes. It allows you to see what's in the box before you open the box and shuffle through everything to figure out what room it should go in. We're going to put local business schema on the GBP landing page. We're going to put service schema on the category and service pages. We're going to put organization and website schema across the board. We're going to put FAQ schema on any page where we have FAQs. Don't forget to do the schema markup. It's very powerful. Claude does a great job of writing schema markup for you, and you can put it on the website. Any custom HTML code, just drop the schema in there and it'll work great. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're embedding the Google Business Profile on the GBP landing page. This is yet another direct connection with the Google Business Profile. Another signal to Google that yes, this GBP matches this website. Embedding it, again, super easy. If you search on Google, you'll find an article, support.google.com, that will walk you through exactly how to generate that embed code. Any website builder, just custom code, paste that embed code in, and you'll have the GBP on there. Name, address, phone number, consistency. This needs to be an exact match everywhere. Don't have an address, phone number, or name on your website that doesn't exactly match what's on the GBP. Beyond that, we want to make sure that the name, address, phone number everywhere on the internet, as much as we can, is exact matching everywhere. Often we'll refer to these as citations, where it's just your name, address, and phone number appearing on the internet. They need to be exact. This is less important for Google than it has been historically, but it is very important for ChatGPT and other AI services like that. If your name, address, phone number doesn't match, which ChatGPT can't tell it's the same business. And the fourth one, I went through it, local high authority websites linking back to your website. The easiest one to get, if you don't want to use the prompt I gave you, is just join the local chamber of commerce. That's a massive local signal of trust for your website. Now, when you do these different things, when you build the right kind of trust, you're going to improve your ranking. I can guarantee that your local rank map is going to look better after you do this versus where it looks today. So now you know exactly how to rank local businesses without blogging. You have the website structure, the homepage optimized for the primary category and city, dedicated category pages and individual service pages for everything. I've even given you the AI shortcuts so that you can build it in an afternoon. Now this system works because most of your competition is either doing nothing or they're wasting their time writing blog posts. Okay, it's a good thing for you that everyone talks about how important blog posts are, because then they're not doing the right stuff. But here's the thing, having the best local SEO system in the world means nothing if you don't have clients to implement it for. And that's actually the biggest problem most agency owners face. They know how to get results, but they can get stuck trying to find businesses who will actually pay them to do it. So the real question for a lot of small agencies isn't how do I rank businesses, it's how do I consistently land local SEO clients. So that's exactly what I'm going to cover in my next video, where I break down the client acquisition system that I used at my agency to land 97 clients in 6 months. Now, if that sounds what you need, go ahead and click on that video right here.